Let's get you the latest, and according to a report that has been published, this is in regard to packaged food that is supplied in lower income to middle income countries. In that group, the food is said to be substandard, and this is based on companies that also include Nestle, as well as companies such as Unilever, Hershey's, as well as Coca-Cola. These companies are supplying substandard packaged food as far as India is concerned, according to this new report that's been published by Access to Nutrition Initiative, a non-profit global foundation that has found that leading food and beverage companies on an average sell products that are less healthy in low and middle income countries compared to what they sell in high income countries. This report, which is the 5th edition of the Global Access to Nutrition Index, states that it's assessed 30 of the world's largest F&B manufacturers. That's 23% of the global F&B market on their performance, and this is what their finding has shown. They have come to the conclusion that according to this NGO, that the ratings that were given out of 5, and out of 5, 3.5 is considered to be a healthier choice. But most of these multinational companies were rated only 1.8. They were rated as low as 1.8. Showing the picture basically that the packaged material that is being sold in lower income and higher and middle income countries, which includes India, has been selling products, which also includes companies such as PepsiCo, Nestle, as well as companies like Hershey's and Coca-Cola also included, where they are selling substandard food when it comes to packaged food in India. And to get more on this, we also have with us Revant Himmat Singhia. He is a food safety campaigner. We also have with us Pooja Malhotra, a nutritionist, joining us. Let me take my first question across to Pooja. Let's just talk about the nutrition as far as the packaged food is concerned. We're seeing an uptick as far as diseases are concerned. We're talking about non-communicable diseases in the country, which are almost 50%. And we're talking about obesity that stands at 24% for women, 23% for men. We're talking about over 10 crore people in the country who are suffering from diabetes, and all this is being linked to a change as far as their diet is concerned and their dependency on packaged food. And now what's really coming out is that packaged food is not as safe, or rather not as healthy as it's claiming to be. Pooja.
A very good morning, Divya. Very good morning, Revant, and to all the viewers. And thank you for having me speak on this extremely important and relevant topic of food labels. And this is becoming increasingly relevant because of the increasing dependency on the increased intake of packaged foods, the ultra-processed foods, which are all high in calories, saturated fat, added sugars, sodium. And there is increased intake of all these foods. At the same time, the non-communicable diseases like diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, hypertension, their incidence is increasing. Like you mentioned, that there are about 10 crore diabetics in India, and India is now being called the diabetes capital of the world. Now, a middle-income country like India is reeling under the burden of double malnutrition. So while on one hand, we have a segment of our population which is dealing with undernutrition because they're not getting enough food to eat, they're not getting enough calories, enough nutrients. On the other hand, we have a huge segment of the population which is increasingly consuming these packaged and processed foods, which are full of these unhealthy ingredients and unhealthy nutrients, which is really, leading to an increased incidence of all these diseases. They are increasingly consuming much more calories and much lesser protein than they should be consuming. And as a result, these are increasing. And this is because of lacks in the labeling laws in our country. So while they are mentioning the nutritional information at the back of the label, which is really coming in a very small font and in a way which is not comprehensible to a large segment of the population. So even if the nutritional information is there, most of the people cannot really comprehend it, cannot really make sense of what it means to their health. So the labels need to be more interpretive. They need to be more descriptive. Some kind of a rating system needs to be evolved. It could be done in the form of a color scale or a colorimeter, something similar to a pH meter, where the foods could be given a color coding or a star rating, or it should be more bold. It should be more clear so that the
Right, so
consumer
warning
can
signs
understand.
need to
And
be
there is a
put
need
out,
to.
like we've seen in Mexico, because they have in fact started putting out the ingredients out on the front of the packaging rather than the back, and which is what findings have now come out with, that as far as sugary drinks are concerned, there's been a decline in sugary drinks, especially amongst the children, thanks to those warning signs that have been put out on the front of the packaging. Let's just go across to Revant. Revant, take us through when we talk about putting out these warning signs right in the front, where, is there a lack of awareness, or can we say also affordability plays a big role when it comes to the kind of dietary measures that we have here in India, considering that, this is impacting the lower income and the middle income countries rather than the high income countries? Is it because they have to keep the cost of the product low, which is why, they are going in for such substandard material?
Yeah, so there are three broad reasons why the largest companies are giving us substandard material. One, of course, is the fact that we are lower income. So as a result, if it's a 10 rupee product, the cost price is often 1 or 2 rupees. So in 1 or 2 rupees, they really cannot give you something healthy. So one, of course, is the price point and the lower income nature of India. Two is the regulation, that the regulations are not strong enough in India, so the companies feel they can get away with anything they want. So that's number two. And number three is lack of health awareness. So even people who are who have the money, they're just not aware. So as a result, they're not willing to pay for something more better quality because they just don't know what is good, what is not good. So it's very important for all of us
How
to.
misleading are the labels on a packaged material, whether it's even someone claiming to be organic or someone claiming to be, say, gluten-free? How authentic are those labels? Can we question whether it's actually gluten-free, whether it's actually organic, and whether it's actually high quality, or rather, is it actually healthy?
Yeah, it's very, very misleading. The front of pack is very, very misleading. The back of pack is relatively honest. So I say this one thing, leading brands are often the most misleading brands as well. And that's the sad reality of India. So you will see high protein, you will see products promoting high protein, but they'll have 2-3 grams of protein. You will see high fiber with barely any fiber. So the front of pack is very misleading. However, if you turn around the pack and if you read the back of the pack, the ingredient list and the nutrition label, that is relatively accurate. Of course, that also sometimes is not 100% accurate, but that is relatively accurate. And that's a
Very
great
quickly,
place to
which are
start.
the names that one needs to like really be warned of? If I see something on a packaging that I would, whether it's high levels of sodium, etc. What are those names that I really need to watch out for?
So we need to look out for things like, usually when you look at the ingredient list, the one which is listed first is the highest in percentage. And so you should look out if the first 2 or 3 ingredients have any of those red flags. So red flags would be things like added sugars, and sugars can have a lot of names. So there are a lot of hidden sugars. If you Google and you search, then there are more than 20 kinds of hidden sugars. For example, high fructose corn syrup, maltose, dextrose, mannitol, sorbitol. There are many, many such names. So there are added sugars. Of course, the sodium content, which you would find in the nutritional composition table. So one needs to look at what are those first 2 or 3 ingredients. Very often you will find something, for example, a product like oat cookies. Now, it may barely have less than 10% of oat flour in it, and the rest of it would be refined flour, which is maida. So truly, you cannot call it an oat cookie. Another example I'll share is, say, you find those cashew nut biscuits or anything which contains nuts. Now they're going to highlight on the front that it contains nuts. whereas it may barely have less than 1% nuts, or less than, even 1% is high, they may have less than 0.5% of nuts in them.
Right.
So one really needs to, the need of the hour is to create awareness about how to understand, how to read, and how to comprehend these labels. And it'll be good if our regulators can make it compulsory to publish this information on the front of the label.
Right, in large fonts perhaps as well, so that people can, it drives home the point as to what really is unhealthy. I'm afraid we're completely out of time, and this conversation could really carry on for hours on end in order to make people aware of the safety hazards when it comes to what you're buying as far as packaged materials are concerned, because they are now substandard. We're talking about very big names in the country. These are multinational brands which are selling substandard material. Thank you so much, Revant Hemant Singh, as well as Pooja Malhotra, for joining us on the broadcast.